Okay, well, just for the kicks of this, I thought I would add a little video. I really despise talking head videos. It's kind of more interesting to just have a voice and be able to watch what I'm writing on the chalkboard and the whiteboard here. But I thought I would give you a brief view of where I'm at and what I'm doing. That's what it looks like. I have a little mic here that hangs around my neck. And as usual, I am also clearing my throat. The other thing is which you don't see, is something that looks like this. This is a tablet on which I write that is where the board is that I'm writing on. So when I write on the board, you see the cursor here, and I just basically look at the board that or write on the board while I look at the computer screen, and that's really all it is. So I will stop the camera because I'm not real thrilled at being videotaped, and we will continue this particular part of the modules videos on group differences in intelligence. All right. Well, like I said, we're going to be looking at some of the group differences in intelligence scores, and what is key to understand is that when we look at this, we're looking at specifically, generally speaking, gender differences, and then we're also looking at ethnic differences that are also part of this. So let me just start with gender, for example, and describe a little bit about how and why the genders differ in mental ability scores. The key point to remember here is that the similarities, and I'll just put gender so it's clear what we're talking about. The key point is similarities far outnumber the differences. When we're talking about intelligence scores between the genders, and that is the bottom line thing to keep in mind, is that in spite of what people say and how much time they spend at accentuating the differences, the similarities are far greater. The number of similarities are far greater. So the key and part of the conversational piece, if you will, is that differences are just more interesting. And so essentially what research indicates to us that compared with boys, girls, and let me just make a list here, are better spellers. They tend to, because of their advanced focus abilities, I suppose, and phonetic abilities, even verbal abilities, one would find that girls are better spellers. They're more verbally fluent, which we all know. When I used to work at Promise Keepers, we used to have a standing joke. It wasn't really a joke. It was more of a illustration, and the illustration was about this verbal fluency. And if you wanted to just guess, and you can do this in your head since we're just doing this by video, but if you wanted to guess how many words a woman utters in a day, and think for a minute how many words a man utters in a day, and the numbers come out to be quite remarkable. For women, the number is about 240,000 words. For men, it's about 120,000 words. Now, think with me for a minute. There's a huge difference here. It's half. So if a man is working in a job, and this is all broad brushstroke, this is not down to the detail, but if a man is working a job and he's in sales, or he's doing what I do, for example, we utter a lot of words in a given day, but by the time we get home, in a sense, not specifically, but in a sense, our quota has already been met, and we're all worded out, if you want to put it that way. But we get home to our wives, and our wives are also involved in maybe teaching or other things, and she's only halfway home, and she's got a lot more words that she feels she needs to utter. So that's just to underscore an illustration with kind of a extreme idea, but generally those numbers do hold up. The other interesting thing about women is that they are better at remembering and locating objects. So let me just put remembering, in other words, memory, and locating objects. Now, the interesting thing, and let me just point this out for you, is that remembering says something about memory. And so they may not be good overtly, as good as boys, as men, at spatial, but they are good at locating objects, which is a spatial skill. Same way with remembering. Their memory is very good. They tend to be more sensitive to, let me just get rid of the superfluous things here. So sensitive to touch, taste, and color are other key points. And what touch, taste, and color. And a couple different things that come out. A lot of times we have a category of person, if you want to put it that way, who are super tasters, and they experience certain tastes more dramatically, more intensely than other people do. And it really boils down to the number of taste buds that are actually on their tongue. And a lot of times that number tends to be women. Now, for guys, boys, men, whatever you want to call it, they outperform women in a spatial ability. So they outperform women in spatial ability. Complex math problems, oftentimes they are better at. Some would suggest that their verbal and left hemisphere is far more developed, and so therefore that's what contributes to a increased proficiency with complex math problems. In math computation and overall math performance, which is another kind of stereotype, if you will, but math computations, and I'll just put compute, and overall math performance, basically the genders, oh gosh, I'm going to run out of space here, the genders are equal. They are the same. There's hardly any difference at all. So some would suggest that the differences can be explained by evolutionary adaptation for each gender, or the social expectations. And I think when we talk about bias in a minute, you will probably see what I mean by that. But gender differences specifically are pretty specific, as this would suggest to you, but overall, the similarities way outnumber the differences between the genders.